Hi lovelies, you're welcome to my channel. Thank you for stopping by today. And if this is your first time of coming across this channel, it's centered around sewing. I share sewing tutorial videos and pattern drafting right here in my channel. So in today's tutorial guys, as you can see from the video, I'll be sharing with you guys how to draft a perfect well-cupped princess dart bustier. Even without padding your princess dart, you have it standing uprightly. So that's the main aim of this tutorial, and I went ahead to make this into a gown, and you can see that the down part of this gown is a tulip skirt. So without wasting much time, I'll just dive right into today's video. So here is the Ankara print fabric I'm working with, which is 100% cotton. So here are my ruler, my scissors, and my pattern paper, of course. So firstly, I will start by marking a line across at the top area, and that line will be my guide, and that will be my shoulder line. So exactly on the line, I will get my shoulder of 14 inches and divide it into two and add half of an inch for allowance. So from that, my shoulder divided into two, I came down by 8 inches, and I'm going to use my stretch ruler to connect the point from my shoulder line down to the 8 inches. So I'll go ahead and take the measurement I have right here, which is 8 inches, and get the middle point of it. That's the half of 8 inches is 4, and from that 4 I came in by half of an inch, and I went ahead to label my chest line, and on that line, label my chest line, I'll divide my bust circumference of 38 inches into 4, and I'll mark whatever I have right there, and from my shoulder line I'm going to connect into this half of an inch up to my chest line, just like this. So the next, I'll proceed now to create my neck opening. So for my neck depth for this dress, I used a neck depth of 4 inches, and for the neck width I went ahead to mark 3 inches. So I'll first of all use my ruler to create this into a block like shape before I'll use my curve rule to create a perfect round neckline. Okay, so having done this, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my bust point of 10 inches. So from that shoulder line, I went ahead to mark 10 inches. So I made a point right there, and the next I went ahead to mark is my half length of 16 inches. So I went ahead to also add half of an inch, which will serve as my joining allowance to the down or lower part of this my dress. Okay, so I went ahead to extend all these lines, and after all this extension, I'm going to label this my bust point and my half length, which is HL. So I'm just simply going to divide my bust span, which is my nipple to nipple, of 7 inches into 2, and I have 3.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 3.5 inches on these two lines. So having done this, I'm going to connect these two lines to these 2 points together. Sorry. So the next I'm just going to do here is to come to my half length, and on my dart leg I'm going to come in and go out at both sides by 1 inch. Altogether I'll be having 2 inches. So I'm simply going to connect this now to my BP. That's the line labeled BP, which is my bust point, guys. So on this half of my armhole, I am just going to come down by 1 inch, and from that 1 inch I'm going to simply come down again by half of an inch. So I'm going to use my curved rule to connect from those points I came down by from the half of my armhole into this line labeled BP, which is also my bust point. So please guys, place your curved rule properly so you get a perfect curved shape right here. So I'll connect this to my BP, and that is basically it. So the next thing I'm just simply going to do now is to stand from that my armhole line by 1 inch on the line at the down part, and I extended by 1 inch, and I'll create a new armhole right here. So this extension is essential because by the time we cut, you notice this will reduce a bit at the armhole area. So I went ahead now to mark my bust point, my bust circumference divided by 4. I marked it right there, and on my half length I went ahead to mark my waist of 33 inches divided by 4. I didn't add my dart, so that is what I got right there. So I went ahead now to connect these two dots together. So having done this now, I'm simply going to create a classic dart. So this classic dart is actually going to make this to have that puffy cup effect without being padded. So from that my bust point, I went up by 1 inch and I came down by 1 inch exactly under my bust point line. Okay, so having done this now, you can see what I already have here. So you can see together is 2 inches. Just please pay proper attention at this point. And at the sides, I went ahead to mark half of an inch. This half of an inch is going to ensure that by the time I slash this open, I'm not going to be short of my measurements. I hope you understand what I mean. So the next thing I'm going to do, guys, is to replace this my dart intake, and here I have 2 inches. I went ahead to replace this, and from that point where my dart started, that is where I'm going to also replace this my dart intake. Okay, so having done this, the next I'm going to do is to replace this 2 inches, which is for the side dart or the classic dart taken here. So I'm going to replace it at the base, or this my half length, and I'll replace it, and as you can see, I'm marking 2 inches right here. So after this, I will also go ahead to reconnect my dart legs to get up to these 2 inches which I marked here. So after this now, guys, I'll go ahead now to cut out. Just watch exactly and carefully how I'm going to cut this out so you don't make a mistake, and you can also get yours perfectly while cutting yours as well. So I'm simply going to get to that my side dart or my classic dart, and I'm going to slash the underneath alone, and I'm going to use the part slash to cover the upper part of my the other side of my dart. So I'll make sure that I don't slash it across the points where the dart is meeting at my bust point. I hope you understand what I mean. So don't slash it to the very end, because you still need everything to hold on together at that point. So you can use a masking tape or a sellotape to tape this down, but I used my pin to do this, and I covered this up, and guys, trust me, this is it. So I went ahead to retake this these measurements I brought down to these 2 inches I added. I noticed that it was a bit wider, so I had to retake the measurements, because the worst that can happen to you is to make a mistake from the drafting of your dress. So you have to be very careful while drafting your dress, because it is the basics and the foundation to a perfect fitting of your clothes. So I went ahead now to add 1 inch, which is going to serve as my seam allowance. So after that, now I'm going ahead now to cut out this just exactly the way that I have drafted. So just watch carefully so you can see all the lines and the darts that I'm cutting through here. So after cutting this out now, I'm just simply going to pin these two together, so you can see that with this alone I already have this standing and puffy effect like it was padded. So this is actually it. So if you want to draft a princess dart and you don't want to pad yours, use this method, and trust me, it's going to stand perfectly. So I would have used a sellotape or masking tape to tape this down. You see the actual effect, but I couldn't find mine at this point, so I had to improvise by using my office pin. So this is what I'm trying to let you guys know, okay, that even without padding this, you can actually have your princess dart standing or looking padded, okay, without looking flat. So now guys, for the back dress, I'll start by marking half of an inch, which is going to be my zipper allowance, and I just went ahead to label that right here, and I went ahead to also divide my shoulder by 2. And okay, I'm just going to repeat everything I did for the front part of this dress. but the only difference here is the zipper allowance and also the creating of the dart. But I'll go ahead and draft a normal basic bodice, which I did for the front part of this dress. Okay, so now for the creation of this dart, for the back dart, I'll be marking 1/2 inch at both sides of this on my dart leg. So from the half of our armhole, I'll come down by 1/2 inch and come down by another 1/2 inch. Unlike the front part, we came down by 1 inch and 1/2 inch. So I went ahead to also connect the same way I did right here. So I'm going ahead now to also mark my waist circumference divided by 4 and also replacing my dart intake of 1 inch. So guys, this is it. I went ahead to also add my seam allowance, 1 inch, and connecting this, I'll go ahead and also cut out exactly the way I've drafted right here. And on the zip allowance, I'll just give this my zip slope, and that is all for the drafting of this dress. So you guys watch carefully how I'm cutting this out, so you actually do yours the exact same way I'm doing mine as well. So you can see what we have here now. I'll go ahead now to label all of these parts so we don't get confused. My CF is my center front, my SF is my side front, my CB is my side center back, and SB is my side back. So guys, this is literally it, and I'll go ahead now and cut this out on my piece. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut this out on my piece, and you can see that along these lines, this area, I went ahead to leave 1/2 inch, which is going to serve as my joining allowance, and also on the neckline area. So I've gone ahead to cut this out on my fabric, on my lining piece, my stay as well. So I unpinned this for you guys to have a better look of what it looks like. So here is my stay I've cut out. I'm going to iron on this piece, and I also went ahead to cut out my wadding piece exactly the same length and shape and size, but for the center or the midpoint, I actually cut out half, because watching from this video you realize that I'm short of wadding, so that is why mine didn't get up to the length of my center piece. So I've gone ahead now to iron all of this on this my piece, that's my hairstay and my wadding piece. I've gone ahead to iron this on this my piece, and now I'm going to place them right sides facing each other. From the base, I'll go ahead and pin this all the way through to the armhole. So at this point, while pinning, you might have little excesses, but that's nothing to get worried about. You just go ahead and trim it off. But if you don't have excesses, it's actually okay as well. So as I've done this now, go ahead and stitch using the 1/2 inch which I left for my stitching allowance. So guys, I've gone ahead to stitch that, and this is what I have. So I used my tailor's ham. I place this on top, I open this, and I'm ironing this seam open. So you can see how I'm carefully doing this from the beginning to the very end. I'm ironing this open, and after that I flipped it to the front part of my fabric, and I got a white fabric. I placed it on this my piece, I sprayed water, and I'm going ahead also to iron this very well. So this is really essential, so you get your puffy effect, standing and firm. So don't you remember that I didn't really pad this, I just ironed a wadding to this. I didn't really pad this, but trust me guys, it's so puffy. Okay, even if I didn't decide to add a wadding to this piece, my princess dart is standing upright and firm. Yeah, that is it. So you go ahead and iron this generously very well. Iron this so well, and you will realize that you have this instant outstanding feature on your princess dart. Okay, so after that, now I'm going to pin the back of this my wadding of my Ankara piece, sorry, on the front part, and I'm going to join lining to lining and fabric to fabric. So I'm going to join the sides using 1 inch and also repeat the same process for my lining piece. So I've gone ahead now to join the sides by 1 inch, and I went ahead to retake my waist measurement, and I have exactly 16 inches. So for my wadding piece, I told you that I'll go ahead and also join the same way I joined for my fabric, and right sides facing each other I place this my wadding my lining piece and my actual fabric. So I'm going to pin this all around, and I'm going to stitch all around, leaving only the armhole area open, but I'm going to stitch every other part. So I've done this now, and I'm turning this over to the right side of my fabric from the armhole area. So after turning this, guys, I'm going to flip this to the right side of my fabric and make sure I give this a cool and nice pressing. So do ensure you bring out all the hidden edges and make sure you iron this very well. So you can see that at this point the only part I have left open is my armhole area, because that is where I turned out from. So the next I will do is to draft out a sleeve for this my dress. So I'm going to start by marking 1.5 inch. This is just an extra to this tutorial, guys. So I'll just show you how I drafted this particular type of sleeve I'm using. So from that part I came down by 3 inches. I marked 4 inches inwardly and also marked 9 inches, which is my armhole. So for the from that line I marked across down to my 7 inches, 13 inches and 23 inches for my full sleeve length, and that part now is my bicep of 7 inches, and I went ahead to mark it. And this other part is my elbow of 13 inches, and I went ahead to mark it and also connected this like this to my full length and added 1 inch, which will serve as my joining allowance. So guys, this is just like I said, an extra to this tutorial, the type of sleeve I actually added to my dress. So I went ahead now to cut this out, and for the middle I'm going to slash it open, because in this type of sleeve I'll just join from the top and stop exactly at the armhole, and stop exactly at my elbow. So when I stop at my elbow, it's going to have this flying flay effect. I didn't really explain it very well here on this tutorial, but if you want to learn how to draft this type of sleeve, I can actually make another detailed tutorial on that, guys. So I went ahead now to join the upper part of that dress, which I already drafted, to this lower part of this dress, join the shoulder, added my zip, and here is the outcome, guys. You can see how nice and puffy this is looking despite it not being padded well. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, share and comment, and thank you to all my subscribers. Join this family and you will never regret it. See you next time. Bye.